Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas Armstrong, and I'm making a series of short videos to introduce my new book, The Power of Neurodiversity: Unleashing the Advantages of Your Neurodivergent Brain. This is a completely revised and updated second edition of a book that I originally wrote in 2010. The topic for today's video is environmental modifications for mood disorders. And I'm using the word environment in a fairly global way to be able to talk about some of the issues, including the first one here on the list, medication. And I put in for some because obviously medications are a pretty, drastic solution if you're just having a bad day, put it that way. But if you're feeling unremitting sadness, um, medication may be able to soften that and even eradicate it. And I should say, for my own part, I fought medications. I have a mood disorder. I've had 5 episodes of major depression in my life, and most of them were made without medications. And I'll tell you, they were pretty rough. And finally, during my fourth one, I think, I finally gave in and said I better try it. I was resistant to it because my father had also been depressed, and this was back in the 50s when they didn't have much available, and they gave him uh, Thorazine, which is like getting, hit with a bat the size of an elephant. It really packs a wallop. I took Thorazine when I had a bad LSD trip once when I was 19, and it really makes you into a zombie. And it did that to my dad, and I didn't want that to happen to me. But eventually, my wife at the time convinced me that this was the right thing to do. So I think I started taking Prozac, and it worked for 20 years. It was great. I slept better. I'd been having 5 years of the most horrible insomnia, slept great. Um, but then it pooped out when I was in my mid 50s. And I'll tell you, trying to find the right medication is not an easy thing. People uh, portray it as, well, you either go into medication to get medication or you don't. And it's more a case of you work with your doctor to find the right combination of medications to treat your specific symptoms. And for me, I think I went through this second time around, I went through eight to 10 different medications, which I had to stop in many cases because the side effects were too weird. In one side effect, I would just pace the house around the house all the time. I couldn't stop walking. Another side effect of another medication was I would wake up in the morning and feel like a nuclear bomb had gone off in my brain. So, it's tough, but when you find the right combination, which fortunately I did, and I'm taking now 4 medications for my mood disorder. I'm taking an antipsychotic, olanzapine. I'm taking and 3 antidepressants. Well, actually, Wellbutrin is a mood stabilizer. Sertraline is a antidepressant, an SSRI, and then I take a little trazodone in the evening to help me sleep. But at any rate, medication may not be for you, um, but it's worth looking at if especially your mood disorder is really disrupting your life and making you miserable. So I'm putting that down as an environmental modification, thinking of the environment in this case as our own central nervous system, essentially. Now we'll be talking about non-medication strategies all the way down. And the next one is, or the first non-drug approach is exercise, which most studies now have suggested um, alleviates depression, may be as good as medication. And I say, why make it either or? Why not do both? At least that's the way I feel for treating my particular depression, which is unipolar depression. For my own exercise, I follow the guidelines, which is 150 minutes a week. So I spend 30 minutes a day walking in front, back and forth on the block in front of my house, which is hilly. So I get enough of an aerobic workout. And then on the weekends, I put together a home gym. So I do strength training on Saturday and Sunday. So your exercise may vary quite a bit. It's best if you do it in something that you love to do. Um, I like mine because I also get to spend time out in nature. And so it's a sort of a twofer. Um, and Sometimes I take a tennis ball with me and squeeze it so I get grip strength that way. Some doctors have said grip strength is a predictor of longevity if you have a good grip. So that's another strategy. Nutrition, also an environmental strategy in terms of the environment of the inside of your body. And what you put in your mouth translates to your mood. We now know that. It used to be thought rather silly, but it's clear now that nutrition has an impact on a wide range of psychiatric illnesses, including ADHD. And so for nutrition, I follow a Mediterranean diet because the literature has been growing on the positive relationship between a Mediterranean diet and a lower rate of depression. A Mediterranean diet is the kind of food that they eat in the Mediterranean. I'm talking about Northern Africa and Italy, south of France, the coast of Spain, and so forth. So it consists mainly of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes like split peas. I'm having split pea soup tonight. Um, Seeds and nuts. I eat nuts every day. Um, some fish, maybe a couple times a week, particularly fish that's high in, I can't remember the name, but you know what I'm talking about. It's fish like salmon and um, I'm blanking out now. Salmon and tuna and swordfish and sardines. I personally don't like sardines. I focus mainly on the salmon. I get these salmon patties at Costco and I make salmon burgers maybe once or twice a week. And then just a little bit of meat, and generally no red meat, but if you do, just make sure that it doesn't have very much fat content in it, and um, and that's it. So it's worth trying. The thing is, it's really delicious. I guess it suited me because when I was 19, I hitched around Europe for 4.5 months, and my best times were down in Greece and Italy, especially Greece, eating the food down there. And that's when I started to really like food. I was a very picky eater as a child, and my mom would short order cook for me, which is a bad way of going about it. It kept me uh, being very finicky. But when I got to Greece, maybe being on my own, I started eating tomatoes, especially salads that had tomatoes and onions and avocado and Kalamata olives and stuff like that. It just, opened up my taste buds to a new level. And so I eat those kind of foods now. Only it doesn't need to be Middle Eastern. You could be eating a Oriental diet with lots of fruits and vegetables and tofu, which is a legume, soybeans. Or you could eat from other places to get the same kind of effect. Just keep in mind, make most of your food fruits and vegetables and whole grains and not white flour or that kind of thing. Whole grains and legumes, and then the fish and a little bit of meat. And nuts and seeds, you'll be on your way. Psychotherapy is an important adjunct to treating mood disorders. Uh, the literature, the scientific literature points to one type of therapy in particular, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a short-term therapy. It's actually usually done in from 5 to 20 sessions, which is why the insurance companies love it. You know, it used to be when psychoanalysis was big back in the 50s and 60s, you'd have to go in 3 days a week, sometimes four, for several years, and it was expensive, and there weren't a lot of people that could do that. So it's kind of nice knowing now that there are these CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy options out there that don't cost very much. They're even coming out with assistive technologies, apps that will take you through the CBT process and help you recognize your negative thoughts and replace them with positive, constructive thoughts. I've been in therapy most of my adult life. I stopped doing it for about 5 years when I was in my 50s, and that's when I got hit with the wallop of my fifth major depression. And I decided I'm just going to stay in therapy from now on. And the good news is that for the last 16 years, I've been depression free. So, I have a good therapeutic alliance, as they put it, with my therapist. And, it's more in the case of emotional support. It's working out things. In fact, it was working with my therapist that I worked out some of the basis of what I call niche construction, which I get into a lot in my book, The Power of Neurodiversity. And, any kind of therapy can be good, assuming you work with somebody who's certified, who's well trained, and you get a good feeling from. If they're starting to do weird things, just walk. Don't even take it any quicker. I've made some mistakes in that regard. So therapy is definitely a plus, and in concert with medication can be a real good combination. Meditation is also one of the big factors for me that has, I think, stabilized my mood from what it was previous to 2009. Uh, Before 2009, even when I wasn't having an episode of major depression, I had dysthymia, sort of like a mini bad mood much of the time. And since I've been meditating, and also because of the medication, I found I don't get those at all. I have a real steady mood, a positive mood. The meditation practice I follow is called mindfulness meditation. I took some classes from Jack Kornfield, who's a well-known American meditation instructor, author of many books. And he taught us meditation in the simplest way. And I always remember, well, let me tell you, mindfulness meditation is the process of sitting or lying down or walking, focusing on your breath or the steps that you're taking. Just that's where your focus is. Let's say we're sitting now, letting the breath go in and out, just paying close attention. And then if the mind wanders, that's fine. Just take a look at what it's wandered to, notice it, and then go back to your breathing. And then if you get another thought or feeling like, oh, this is boring, notice, oh, boring. That's what I'm feeling. And then go back to your breath. And Jack gave this very nice image of doing this kind of training. He said it's like puppy training a little dog. You put him on his papers, and then if he wanders off, you just pick him up and put him back on his papers. And he wanders off again, you put him back on his papers. And you just keep doing that. And some people say, well, I can't meditate because my mind goes all over the place. Your mind's supposed to go all over the place. It was built for that. And what we're trying to do with mindfulness meditation is become aware of that process. Because then what happens is when you're not meditating, and you get a bad mood or something like that goes on, you notice, oh, I'm having a bad mood. And you objectify it. It no longer rules you. You can let go of it. You don't tell yourself lots of stories about it. You just, okay, that's what I'm feeling, now on with life. So it's a real, it's a mood booster and it's a mind clearer. Um, Somebody once said, everything is the sky. You are the sky. Everything else is just clouds. And that's what all these things that come up, the resentments or the hopes or the itches or the, you know, um, conflicts, etc. Those are all just clouds. And you're just moving through the clouds, but who you are is really the blue sky up above. I want to make a pitch for the arts as an important treatment for mood disorders. And I'm talking about both appreciating the arts, going to plays, going to concerts, but more importantly, I'm talking about creating music, creating pictures or paintings, creating dramatic theater, or whatever it is that turns you on. Um, my particular focus has been music and the piano. I've got a little baby grand and I try every day to sit down for at least 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour, and noodle. I don't read music very well. I have dysmusic, I guess. Dysmusica, dis reading musica, I guess. And but I can improvise. And so I, take themes and I just love to improvise, make up tunes, chord progressions. I'm just having the best time. And then when I'm not doing that, I've got a Beatles songbook. Every song the Beatles published, and I have worked out most of the chords for most of the songs, and so I like to sing those as well. But for you, it may be different. You may be a painter and love to draw or do collage or sculpt. I have a friend who's really who with a mood disorder, has found a lot of deep satisfaction in pottery and sculpting. And the community theater, which is in so many local towns, is an option for people who have a more dramatic flair. But what you say you're doing is you're taking that negative energy, which is invested in the mood disorder, and you're finding a channel for it, a constructive, expressive channel for it. And that may not necessarily make all the negative feelings go away, but it gives you something to do with it that is positive, that reaches people. Many of the great artists and writers and dramatists and so forth have had mood disorders. Um, I've done a video on some of these individuals. Van Gogh, we know of, and Lincoln, he was painting a picture of the United States is what he was doing, U.S. history. But he suffered from depression, and he would sing songs and he would chant from beautiful poetry, and he found that this offered him some relief. So whatever it happens to be, playing the guitar, um, learning to draw cartoons, whatever it happens to be, think of the arts as a real opportunity to siphon off some of that negative energy and put it in a place where it can be beautiful. Nature. Nature is a real big one. It's harder to feel depressed in nature. One can. I have spent many, many times. I mean, I went through during my third major depression. I I hobbled out. In other words, I drove out from the coast of California to Yosemite. It's about a 4.5 hour drive. I can't believe it. I hadn't slept for about 3 days. And here I was getting in a car and I was winding along these cliffs, going to Yosemite. And I spent about 3 or 4 days there, and I was really in bad shape. It wasn't just depression, it was a deep sense of anxiety. I also have an anxiety disorder, I should mention. And even though it didn't get rid of those feelings and fears, it did give me things to get my mind off of it. Remember riding horses. I remember walking in the beautiful meadows of Tuolumne Meadows, for example, and going up to Bridal Veil Falls and Yosemite Falls, and just having a beautiful time that was happening right next to the horrible time that I was having. So nature heals. Sometimes just getting out and spending time, if near a park, at a park near you, or if there's a forest reserve, make it a place that you can go to and sit or walk when you just want to think about things. I actually get a little bit of a nature hit when I go on my daily walk because it's outside, because I happen to live in a fairly wooded street, and I get to hear all the frogs and the cicadas or whatever they happen to be. And that is probably as relieving to me as the walk itself. Another big factor that scientists have pointed um, to help treat mood disorders is having a purpose in life and also feeling a sense of gratitude for life. When I'm talking about having a purpose in life, I'm not talking about sitting down with, one of these goal planning sheets, one of these Franklin Covey leather-bound books where you write down all your specific goals and keep track of them, with a time management application and that kind of thing. No, I'm talking about your purpose. What is your purpose for being here? Do you have a purpose? Um, or are you just marking time? And the answer to that question can relate very strongly, not just to whether or not you're going to have a mood disorder, even translate into later health and your health longevity, your health span, as they call it. There's the lifespan, how long you'll actually live in terms of years, and the health span, that's how long you will live healthily without disability, without chronic disability. So having these two things, feeling a sense of gratitude for everything, and having a sense of purpose. For me, my sense of purpose is helping children. Um, since I was 22, I've had that sort of calling, and it's taken me through a lot of different careers, but they've all in some way been related to children and helping children realize their full potential. So I feel fortunate to have had that. And right now it involves writing books, including The Power of Neurodiversity. Even though much of that book is focused on adults, there's still a lot in there about children and the schools and how we can change the schools by having neurodiversity as its focus instead of special education as a deficit sort of institution. Another biggie from the standpoint of researchers is social connections. In virtually every article that I've read, whether it's on the ARP magazine, the Retired People's Magazine, or if it's in a Time magazine or a newspaper article, or something that I hear on the net, um, it it's like, to be healthy, you should have social connections. As you get older, you need to have social connections. And this is the hardest one for me because I'm an introvert. And it's my general habit to like to be by myself, doing my thing, reading my books and writing my articles and that kind of thing. But I pay attention to this because I think it makes a lot of sense, especially me, a divorced white male, over 70, almost over 75, which is a very vulnerable category for human beings. And so I strive, to make connections. I talk to my sister every week who's in Minnesota. I have a meditation group that I go to every week, my Sangha, as it were. I have a goddaughter that I try to spend regular time with. I've got other friends that I try to reach out to, and make it something that I just don't take for granted. I don't wait to be called, I call, um, and invite. That's maybe, if you're not a real people person, you can think about it in that way. Just, okay, it's something that maybe I don't like to do, but it's good for me, so I should do it. Scientists say it's good for me. So that's how you might be thinking about it. And then finally, I want to talk about aromatherapy. There's a small but growing list of research studies suggesting a link between aroma and lessening of depression and anxiety. And originally, I was going to talk mainly about aroma dispensers, those kind of vase-like looking structures that you put water into and you drop some scents of, drops of lavender oil, for example, into the water, and then you turn it on and starts poofing out the scents of lavender. And that's still a great idea. Lavender, in fact, is probably the one aroma that I would start with, because it's strongly associated with a sense of ease and calm and low stress. So there's that application. But then I was looking at this picture and I said to myself, real aromatherapy isn't just getting a bottle and turning it on and sniffing the vapors thereof. It's smelling things outside, when you go, or even inside. Um, when I go on my walk, that's another thing that I like about my walk, is that as I walk along, I smell all sorts of different things. I smell the food that people are cooking in their homes. I smell the sort of the uh, dryness of the heat. I smell the it's almost hard to describe. I get these smells that sometimes remind me of my first library, especially when I get down near the bridge. I don't know what kind of plant is making it, but um, when I was a child, I'd go down to the basement of this library where the children's books were, and there was this smell, and that's the smell that I get. And it's a good smell because I loved libraries. And so, looking at all of life as an opportunity to get in touch with the smells of the world. Smells affect a part of the brain that nothing else does. And that's why it's really hard to explain what a smell is, or draw a picture of it. It is what it is, but it brings back reminiscences of the past. Right now, I'm reading In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust, and it's about his own experience of feeling things, of hearing things, tasting things, that brought back whole chapters of his childhood to life. That's actually how he begins the book. He ate a little cookie with some tea in it, and from that point on, his whole childhood unrolled. And so you might check that out. You might want to start with Swan's Way, which is the first of the 8 books that are the part of that whole work. Okay, I didn't intend for this to be a discourse in Western literature, but I wanted to give you a taste of some of the issues, some of the kinds of treatments and environments or niches, as I point out in the book, that we can create for ourselves that will affect in a very positive way our moods, our attitudes, our thoughts, keep us from falling into the trap of whatever negative thought, so-and-so is better than I am, or I'll never make it to the next 5 years, or whatever kind of negative thoughts. These are the supports that keep that sort of thing at bay. And I get into some of this in my book, The Power of Neurodiversity. I get into anxiety disorders, ADHD, dyslexia, autism, and other schizophrenia and other neurodivergent conditions. And so I hope that you get the book. It just came out, The Power of Neurodiversity. I hope that you enjoy it, that you find it useful, that you share it with your friends, your family, your teachers, your therapists, your coworkers, anybody at all. If you want to get more out of it, there's an appendix in the book that's called the Neurodiversity Strengths Checklist. It's a 200-item inventory that you can fill out that will tell you all of the things that you're good at. And I wrote this because I thought I was a former special education teacher, and I saw my kids and other special ed kids taking test after test after test, telling them what they couldn't do. And to me, it seemed strange, that you would want to give kids these failure experiences. So I put together several checklists. One checklist is in my book, 7 Kinds of Smart, based on Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences theory. But this one is based on neurodiversity and the broadest possible range of strengths that I could comprehend. So that's available in the book. But if you go to my website, which is www.institute4learning.com, that's institute4learning.com, and you go to my homepage or my blog page, you'll see a box saying blog post sign up. Put your email in there and you will automatically receive my 200-item neurodiversity strengths checklist in your email. If you're interested in these videos, this is actually the 40th video that I've made in this series on my new book, The Power of Neurodiversity. If you want to see some of the other videos, go to YouTube and go to my playlist, which is Dr. Thomas Armstrong /playlists, and choose The Power of Neurodiversity. I've got several playlists. Choose The Power of Neurodiversity as the one, and you can go through as many or as few as you like. So thank you for listening, for watching, and I hope that the information is useful to you. And I wish you all the best as you go into life and celebrate all the advantages that neurodivergent people have. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.